Today we're joined by Senator Elbert Guillory, Senator for Louisiana, shares with us today his viewpoints on race relations and a divided country and what we can all do to come together as one unified country. Find out more about Senator Elbert Guillory at elbertguillory.com. Senator Elbert Guillory, welcome to Savvy Business Radio. I'm so grateful you could come join us today. How are you?
Doing very well, and I am honored to be here talking with you.
Oh, man, it's a fabulous blessing to have you out here today on this wonderful, actually rainy Saturday. But you're going to join us. We started a new program on Savvy that really touches on some of the hard core issues facing our country at this moment. And one of them is race issues. Another one is a divided nation. We've become a country that's become divided. And my dear senator here, you've been a Louisiana state senator really helping and for the people over the years. I'm so grateful you could join us. Share a little bit about your background for people who might not know about Louisiana or the work you've done.
Well, I started my career in politics and law when I was 15. I was arrested at a public library for trespassing in a place where Black folks should not be present. And from that point until now, I have had one consuming issue, and that is bringing justice to all people in America and making America deliver its promise of freedom, justice, and liberty. Navy veteran, ex-law professor at Rutgers, law graduate at Rutgers, New York Theological Seminary. I'm a Baptist preacher, and I love God and I love America.
Well, I'm just curious for my own. What part did you serve in the Navy? What was your duty there?
I was a secretary in the Navy, and I had some additional skills that I polished with weapons particularly.
Well, today I was really interested because I looked a little bit into your background, and I, for the first 20 years of my voting life, was a Democrat. And I saw that you started out as a Democrat and switched to a Republican Party. And I thought that was interesting because for me, I had my own personal reasons why actually I didn't switch out of the Democratic Party into the Republican Party. I actually switched to independent because I really didn't want to be tied to any one party. What was it for you that was kind of the aha moment that this is not speaking to me, that I need to switch to the Republican Party?
Values, the values of the Democrat Party, particularly in Louisiana. They had just gone so far to the left, anti-God, anti-gun, anti-life, pro-killing, pro-abortion. So I wasn't comfortable there. We weren't comfortable with each other. I was tired of the squabbling and just had to get out of there. My mom, who was 103, did not want me to be identified with those values that did not reflect the values of my family, my church, or my community.
Absolutely. I understand that. And it makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know. Tell me your take on this, but I feel that God has really been left out of our public lives big time over the past several years. And it's made a big impact on the way we've structured government, public lives. How have you felt about that?
I think that you're absolutely correct. When we started to evict God from American politics, we started to go down a bad road, and it has led us to a lot of this divisiveness, a lot of this pitting one group versus the other group, and then of course that's been assisted by charlatans who are in politics and who derive votes or money by inflaming passions of division instead of unity.
And that is so true. I recall hearing the separation of church and state was actually a phrase used by Thomas Jefferson. However, from my understanding of it, it was really to keep government out of people's religious beliefs and practices so that the people could practice freely without the government getting involved. And now it's been seen by, either the left or right as being that neither should mix. But in actuality, for me, your religious faith is who you are. It's your life lived in practice. So you can't really separate it, from my understanding.
I absolutely agree with you. You know, if we go to a foreign country, if we go to a Hindu country, we can choose to participate or not participate in their services. If we go to an Islamic country, we can choose to participate or not participate, but we can't interfere with what they are doing in their country, the way they worship their God. Only have we permitted people to come into our country, into our house, and stop us from worshiping our God the way that we want to. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about the United States, that you could be a Christian, openly practice, not force other people to be Christian, but openly practice and say Merry Christmas or whatever it might be. But now it's almost become a dirty word to be a Christian in the United States of America, and that's a little scary for me.
Yes, we've become a nation of happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas.
Oh, so sad, so sad. Now let's talk a little bit. I heard you mention the firing up of race relations in our country and the division. What do you feel is the biggest proponent of that?
I think that the Democrat Party has worked very, very hard to divide us, to pit one against the other, and not just blacks against whites and whites against blacks, but the division between blacks and browns, between browns and yellows, yellows and reds, reds and whites. Anywhere they can find a little wedge that they can drive, they do it, and they do it to get more votes, to keep us fighting against each other, and they thrive on our votes.
Yeah, it's a scary, scary thing, Senator Guillory. I remember back in my 20s, I thought the Democratic Party was the party of the people. It was, if you wanted to care about people and civil rights and people's rights and the poor, you vote Democrat. And that's what I pretty much felt. And over the years, as I started to actually look at what was going on, even with social welfare programs and civil rights, I felt, I started to see that it was actually enslavement programs, that they were actually there to actually keep us enslaved to the government. And I said, well, I certainly don't want to be a slave to the government, nor do I want any of my fellow citizens to be slaves to the government. How has it come that we've become a nation of entitlement and that we kind of feel that we should get these things?
Lyndon Johnson, the Democrat president in the 1964 and 65 era, when he was signing the 64 and 65 civil rights bills and those entitlement bills that gave us the great society, as he called it, he said at the time, I'm going to give them a little something, not enough to make a difference, but I'll have those N-words used voting Democrat for the next 200 years. It was designed to operate this way. It has operated this way. It has kept minority communities, particularly, bound to the Democrat Party, thinking that they're going to get something they're prevented from achieving the American dream. You get a little government check every month, and that's all. You're never able to buy a house or send your kids to college and to move on up and out of poverty, as every other ethnic group has done in America.
Yeah, it's scary to me. I had a friend who, way back when I first started my working career, said, well, I know how to work the system. I know how to get freebies because that's how I'm living large. And I looked at his life and I said, this is not living large. You're just barely scraping by. You're surviving. You've got a nice fridge full of food thanks to welfare, but then what? I mean, you don't have a life where you can, as you say, move on up, upward mobility, have the job you want, the freedom you want to live the life you want.
That is absolutely true. I love it. The Jeffersons and their concept of moving on up is something that's denied so many Americans because they are locked into a little check, a few food stamps, and a small public housing project. And that's it. That's it. That's as far as they can go. And the schools that surround them are rotten, so their children don't get an education. The streets that surround them are dangerous, so that two little girls playing in the park yesterday in Chicago, 1 7 and 1 13, shot, playing in the schoolyard. And and that is all a part of what we have reaped from being in the hip pocket of the Democrat Party.
And it's a sad state. I remember back in my 30s, early 30s, I had lost my job, and I was afraid to nearly lose my apartment and to be starving in the street. And I was so desperate. It gotten to the point where I was denied unemployment for, I don't remember what reason, but I went to the unemployment office, and I'm embarrassed to say, I begged them to give me welfare and said, I won't leave until they give me welfare. And they had to call the cops, and they said, if you don't leave, we're going to call the cops. But really, it was, it was a sad day because I really felt I was going to die, and I didn't. I found odd jobs. I was able to eat. I was able to pay rent. But, it's interesting that we've gotten to that place as people that we feel sometimes that the government taking care of us is the only option. And so I can feel for anyone out there feeling that, Democratic Party is the only party because I need the government, because if I don't have it, then what? What do you say to people like that who feel like, if we don't have these social benefits, then what? We could be starving, we could lose our job, we'll be in the street. What would you tell someone like that, like me at 30 years old?
I would say two things. If you are in dire stress, this is the wealthiest country on earth, and we will give you the shirts off our back. A bridge over troubled waters. America is happy to extend that bridge and to make it work for people. But a bridge over troubled waters should never become a highway into the future. Mm-hmm. After 18 months, you should be on your feet.
Absolutely. And at that time, actually, now it's about 18 months. At the time, it was 6 months. But you know what? Even without the unemployment, I did find my way back on my feet. A number of friends and coworkers helped me find a job here, gave me a little bit of extra food. I mean, it's a scary time when you run into financial straits or difficulty. But as you say, we are an awesome nation, a nation of people who care about each other. We really, really are. Now, when we talk about division in this country, because it's great, between black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter what color you are, there's this great division. And a lot of it's based on ignorance. People do not really know what's really going on. Where do you see most of this division coming from, and how can we start to eliminate it in this great republic?
When I speak to black audiences, I suggest that pot has worked for the Italians, the Irish. It's worked for so many other ethnic groups. Now, we are a particularly visible ethnic group, but still, we should not make race an issue instead of not buying into the American way. And the American way is pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, getting up in the morning and going to work. It means that when a police officer pulls you over, you don't say, "No, man, leave me alone. I ain't doing nothing," and you resist. And too often that resistance leads to a person who is dead on the side of the streets. And it all starts with not following a valid police order. So we should not make race an issue. Mm. And when our children fail to obey orders and get shot for it and die for it, then we make it us versus America. I heard LeBron James. Someone wrote the N-word on his, supposedly, on his gate. And he was crying about how hard it is to be an American. And he's a high school graduate making $1 gazillion every year and crying about how hard it is to be black in America. That is the kind of absolutely brainless, stupid, pin-headed idiocy that plays into that divisiveness. And it is us, in his case, making an issue of race where really no issue exists.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I would say it doesn't empower a victimization of people. And that's got to stop, because in a victim mode, you cannot get anywhere and grow anywhere to be your best possible self. And us as a country, we can't come together as a unit, as a full unit, if we're seeing that we're all victims.
That is so true. And we aren't. I mean, the Italians have had a rough go in America, and so have the Irish, and so have the English. I don't know of a single ethnic group. The Cajun people, terrible, terrible story. But you don't hear the Cajun people in Southwest Louisiana crying about being victims. They came here and they worked very hard. And they being we, actually, we have done quite well. We have carved out a niche in America for us. And the Cajun people are respected. And that's the way every ethnic group should be. Come on in and into the pot and melt. You don't have to look like every other piece of meat in the pot, but you can certainly melt into it and be a part of the great American gumbo.
Ooh, I love that. And I love that your word mentioned melt into the pot, because that's exactly what we want. That's what real diversity is. Coming here and saying, well, we're just going to be within here and force you to be us. Well, we don't want that either. We want you to come on in, bring your food, bring your glorious food and your culture, and meld on in with us so we can all enjoy. I mean, look at this. We wouldn't have pizza if it weren't for the Italians. They came in here and they had pasta back in Italy, and they decided to mix it on up and make pizza out of it. Well, now we all enjoy a great American pizza thanks to the Italians.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent example.
Yeah. And now one thing I feel, and I told this to a lot of people who have said, well, the Republican Party is destroying this country. And I say, people, listen, this is not picking your favorite baseball, basketball, football team. This is people who are supposed to be representing servants of the people. That is what a congressman, senator, president is. And really look at their actions. Stop listening to what the general media tell you about this and that, and they're blowing up sensational stories. Really look at each individual person's actions, and do they reflect your values? Stop looking at party lines and look at the individual people. Do you agree to that?
1,000%. And if there was a time when I thought that we should abolish all parties,
yes,
there would be one party, and that's the American Party, and that each person would have to belong to that party because it's the only party that there could be, and you would have to be judged by your ideas, your policies, your work that you have done. And on that and that alone, no D versus R versus green versus libertarian. I've moved away from that position, but I still every now and then look back to that idea with fondness.
Yes. I mean, honestly, I've talked to a woman who came on who's pro-choice, but she said, a lot of my other issues that I believe in, I would probably be more, left ideology. I don't really fit in a box. And I think, honestly, that's true of most people. We don't fit in an absolute complete box of just left or right or whatever. And I talk to people, and there's some ideals where there'll be very left leaning and some more conservative, some middle of the road. So, I mean, I think that's absolutely correct. Choose the person, the official who's really going to represent you as a person, and then hold them accountable. I did that back when 9/11 happened. I contacted my senators and congressmen and wrote them letters about what action I felt was most important for America. Only one wrote back to me, and I felt the response was kind of, sad for me, because they said, well, we just have to go along with what's going on with the president right now and put our beliefs aside. And I said, well, that's not why I voted you, to put your beliefs aside, or put my beliefs aside. You're standing here for the people aside. So I found that response a little sad, because the officials are there to serve the people.
Absolutely. And they should reflect our values and our choices, policies that benefit us.
Yes. Yes. Now, for where we are right now, there's a lot of hate. And as I said earlier, I think a lot of it's built on misinformation and really just being ignorant to what's really going on. What would be your suggestion for people to really become inspired and educated and really learn about what's going on around the entire country and the world?
First, we should tamp down the divisive and vitriol, the rhetoric that is keeping us apart. Stop yelling and cussing at other folks and be more civil. The second thing I think we should do is to start reaching across boundaries. Reach out and talk to a Klansman and understand what's his position. You don't have to love him. You don't have to agree with him, but civil discourse will not hurt. No one will be hurt by talking with someone else and exchanging ideas. If we do more of that, I believe that we will find that we have so much more in common. Education and safety and government spending. We're not going to agree on everything, but there can be a common ground for just about everyone. and we can work together and be unified as Americans.
Ooh, I love what you just said there, Senator Guillory. It's so important because I've had friends over this election refuse to talk to me because I actually changed my voting to a Republican Party just so I wouldn't have a problem on voting day because I want to make sure I could vote for President Trump. For me, I felt that was the best choice for the United States of America and the direction we're moving in. But mind you, and I tell this on my show several times, what he had to say, what he stood for. And I actually looked not at the talking heads, not what the news are trying to tell me about what he stood for, but behind that, I actually listened to every speech, my own, without hearing any commentary, read the transcripts, and got a full understanding of what he stands for. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. No man is. And that's one thing I tell people. If you're looking for Jesus Christ to come save us, no, there is one Jesus Christ, and he's the Lord and the Savior, and he is not going to come and be a politician. We can't look for any one person to come save our country. It's got to come from every single one of us in order to start finding common ground, to really just sit down and see where we have common interests, where we have common wants and desires. And like you did, because really at the end of the day, we all want to be cared for. We want to be healthy, happy, have prosperity. We all at the core of it, at the general core of it, want the same thing.
I love the way that you put that. That is so accurate. I hope that God blesses you and the work that you're doing because you are doing a phenomenal job.
Oh, well, thank you, Senator Elbert Guillory. It's been such a blessing having you today, sharing your gifts. Please let everyone know if they haven't been to Louisiana, haven't met you, where they can find out more about you. Maybe come to one of your sermons.
I can be reached at elbertguillory.com. Elbert Guillory's America. My Facebook, of course, Twitter, and Elbert Lee Guillory YouTube channel. So come in and listen to us, understand what our message is, and it's a message of unity and godliness. And support us, please. Give us your ideas. Give us your prayers.
And actually, your messages on YouTube, if they can't get to the pulpit and see you in person, they're inspirational and wonderful. So go to YouTube, everyone, check it out. And thank you, Senator Elbert Guillory, for coming to share your great wisdom today on Savvy Business Radio.
I am so honored to have had this conversation with you, and I hope that we will maintain close contact.
You betcha.